The other day, I was rewatching Stranger Things with friends, and an idea struck me. Everyone familiar with it surely knows that Eleven, the child protagonist with superpowers, often uses water to traverse the line between the town of Hawkins and its parallel dimension, the Upside Down. It occurred to me that it would be a great idea to address the meaning of water in the film industry. We live in a symbolic world, and the movie and music industry use symbols in abundance, sometimes for reasons undoubtedly highly controversial. With only slight engagement in such polemics, let's try to unravel the mystery and origins of water symbolism.
It's got to get a sip of water.
Water is crucial for the existence of life on Earth. It represents at least 60% of our body. After only 3 days without water, our organs begin to shut down. No shower, no friends. And bugs.
Wash the oil off.
Wash the oil off.
Otherwise no one will like you.
Every human's very first contact with material existence begins with water, the amniotic fluid surrounding the baby in the womb. And then, before the baby is delivered, the water breaks. It gives and sustains life, cleans but can also drown, destroy and wash life away. Of this importance of water for life, we've been aware of old, and it shaped the religious meaning it gradually adopted. Its presence in symbolism dates back to the very first myths, the creation myths, the archaic cosmogonies, where the world is often enveloped by primordial waters. The creator, in an anthropomorphic or aquatic form, descends into the bottom of the ocean, where material necessary for creation of the world is found. Or from watery mass, the primordial mother, emerge the sky and the earth, the male and the female principles. Duality arises from unity. The first creation story in the Bible relates, "And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, let it divide the waters from the waters." Thus from unity, duality bearing semblance to it emerges. Water is here often merged with the image of origin, unity and infinity, the same we see when looking at the horizon of the sea without an ending. At the same time, it represents unconsciousness, chaos, pure potential, from which only consciousness, order, purpose must arise to create life. If you're interested, there's more on this in my video about the feminine and chaos. Given its presence in human life, this deduction makes very much sense. Later on, we come across the idea of water snuffing out humanity for good in the form of deluge, often an act of divine retribution, for being too noisy, like in the Gilgamesh flood myth, for example. I mean, fair enough. This, however, always leaves some sprouts from which life may spring again. In a way, it represents the same idea of the corruption of the order which must be wiped away and rebuilt anew, like the story of Osiris and Horus, for example. This idea was reinforced by the unpredictability of the element in real life. One could drown in it, rains could swell rivers which could destroy a boat, seas could rise in tsunami and wipe away everything in its way in a matter of minutes. Given all its properties, water found its way into myths that were enacted through rituals. In Christianity, water is sanctified and used for purification, including in exorcism. It's also employed during baptism. Although its meaning differs according to the branch of Christianism, it generally signifies initiation through death and rebirth. Hence the name-giving that follows. One emerges as a new person, he's born anew. The name itself has Greek origins and means immersion and perishing. In the past, baptism was much more violent than mere sprinkling of water that it's now. It resembled ritual drowning depicted in Game of Thrones, where the Ironborn believe in the drowned god. For a person to become consecrated to him, a near-death experience is induced. He must be ritually drowned and brought back to life successfully, which often isn't the case. Back to baptism, Mandeans were the first to practice baptism, and John the Baptist was one of them. He's referred to as their greatest teacher. They practice this ritual drowning, and they also believe that everything they eat must be drowned because only then it becomes pure from death. As is often the case, the way these rituals were enacted gradually became diluted. With the age of increased rationality ushered in, we have now dispatched the enaction of such rituals into the past and religious events, or left it over for tribal communion. The comprehension of the psychological processes behind is clearer, and therefore their enaction needn't be so crude. They now remain in dreams and fantasy, and therefore in fiction. Let's now look at how the water symbolism is used there. Emergence from or submergence into the unconscious is accompanied by water. The conscious and the unconscious are perceived as two separate dimensions, with the unconscious being represented by either the unconscious itself, the dream or the world of make-believe like in Inception, or its symbolical representations, the underworld, a netherworld, like Upside Down in Stranger Things or Hell in Constantine. Water thus retains its original meaning in the sense of connecting the two dual opposing forces. Going back to the creation myth, water was from which duality emerged. Water separates the sky and the life on the ground from the life below the sea. It moves oneself from one dimension to another, through birth from the womb into the world, through washing from dirty to clean, through flood from old to new, or through drowning from the world back into the womb. In Stranger Things, in the Hawkins lab, Eleven's used primarily as an interdimensional intermediary. She can locate people tuning into a specific radio frequency, but that doesn't always work. When she's submerged in the water, she can enter an interdimensional space and find the person more efficiently. Water is here used as a means for sensory deprivation. But when Elle enters the interdimensional space, there is also water on the ground, denoting its dreamlike quality. As she touches the Demogorgon, a portal between the world and the Upside Down is opened. In the movie Constantine, the same meaning is employed, but without this need of sensory deprivation. When Constantine goes to the parallel hell version of LA, he sits on a chair and submerges his feet in water. He himself says that it eases the transition between the two worlds. Later, a bathtub full of water is used for the twin sister to regain the powers of her dead sister. She's held underwater until she drowns and returns back, breaking the bathtub. That's a parallel to being born again. The water breaks, depicting the rise from the darkness of the womb. In Inception, it serves as a signal of emergence from an entrance into the unconscious, the dream. At the beginning of the movie, the protagonist washes up on the shore, a signal that we're in the dream world now. When the first dream sequence in the movie is about to end, the dream world is flooded by water and the participants wake up. On another occasion, in order to wake the protagonist from a deep dream, he's thrown into a bathtub full of water. Upon the entrance into another dream, rain's falling. Later, in the same dream, the whole area is covered by snow. Then, leaving the dream, the van with all the participants of the dream sinks deep in the water. Frequent usage of the symbolism in the movie isn't at all surprising given that the dream world represents the main environment. The same symbolism is used in countless other movies. Good examples would be The Matrix, Stargate, or The Box. In these cases, water serves as the gate to another dimension. This idea might have originated with the reflection in the water. Although it's the same thing we see in the water, it's different, it's altered, distorted, like a parallel dimension. Normal water, like tap water or rainwater, is a good conductor because of the impurities it contains, such as ions of calcium. Thus its symbolical ability to transfer one into another world mentally while keeping his body in the current world. It may also be connected to the alteration of the original state of the object water comes into contact with, like during cooking or cleaning. In all these cases, this other dimension always remains something unfamiliar and impossible to enter physically, therefore resembling the vastness of the unconscious. Another possible interpretation of water symbolism is a more sinister one. In the Mormon faith, there was once an urban legend that water had a satanic component. Satan was believed to have dominion over waters. In Wicca and alchemy, the symbol of water is an inverted triangle, which denotes the subconscious, something coming below from above, like rain, or submergence into the unconscious. In the Bible, the sea is also associated with evil, like the Leviathan, And a rather similar idea can be found in Game of Thrones. For example, the Dothraki despise and mistrust the sea, and its nearby presence is an ill omen for them.